Welcome to UK Pathway Hub, your trusted guide to everything about immigration visas and life in the United Kingdom. Here, we break down the latest updates, policies, and comparisons between different visa options, making it easier for you to understand your journey to the UK. If you're planning to move, work, or study here, this is the place for you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share it with others who might find it helpful. And of course, drop your questions in the comments. We're here to make your UK pathway clear and simple. A question of family. Imagine being forced to flee your country, leaving behind everything you know, only to discover that you cannot reunite with your spouse, your children, or your parents. That is the heartbreaking reality thousands of refugees in the UK are now facing. The government has announced the suspension of the Family Reunion Scheme, a pathway that once gave displaced people a chance to live safely with their loved ones. This decision has left many in shock and many more in despair. While headlines speak of policies and numbers, what we are really talking about here are families, torn apart by conflict and now kept apart by policy. Today, we'll dive into what this suspension means, why the government says it was necessary, and why critics are calling it a devastating mistake with far-reaching human consequences. What the Family Reunion Scheme was. The Family Reunion Scheme was one of the few legal and safe routes available for refugees in the UK. It allowed those granted asylum to apply for their close relatives, usually spouses and children under 18, to join them in Britain. For many, it was the only way to rebuild their lives after escaping persecution, war, or violence. Unlike other immigration routes, this scheme didn't require expensive fees, strict income requirements, or long waiting lists. It was designed to keep families together, recognizing that safety and stability are almost impossible without loved ones by your side. By suspending this scheme, the UK government has effectively shut the door on countless families who were in the middle of applying, leaving them in limbo. To understand the true weight of this decision, we must go beyond bureaucracy and see the human bonds it threatens to sever. Government's reasoning. The UK government defends its decision as a necessary step to manage what it calls unprecedented pressures on the asylum system. Officials point to a surge in applications, overcrowded housing facilities, and a backlog of pending cases. They argue that the system is stretched to its limit and that suspending new family reunion applications will buy time to process existing claims. Ministers describe it as a temporary pause, but they have not provided a clear timeline for when or if the scheme will be reopened. To supporters of the policy, this is about regaining control of borders, easing public services, and addressing growing concerns about migration numbers. Yet critics argue that the government is choosing the most vulnerable group, refugee families, to bear the brunt of this crisis. For them, this isn't about efficiency, but about politics. Critics' reaction. Human rights organizations, refugee charities, and faith leaders have condemned the suspension as cruel and short-sighted. They say it punishes people who have already endured unimaginable suffering. Families who expected to reunite are now stranded, separated across continents, with no safe way to be together. For critics, this move undermines the UK's long-standing commitment to humanitarian protection and instead sends a message of deterrence. They stress that family unity is not a luxury but a fundamental human right, one recognized under international law. Beyond the moral argument, campaigners warn that closing safe and legal routes will push desperate families into dangerous alternatives, including smugglers and unsafe crossings. In their view, the government is not fixing the asylum system but creating more pain, more risk, and more instability. They argue that if Britain truly values compassion and fairness, this policy cannot stand. The bigger picture. This suspension cannot be seen in isolation. Across Europe and beyond, countries are tightening their asylum policies, citing rising numbers and strained resources. Conflicts in Ukraine, Sudan, Afghanistan, and the Middle East continue to drive millions from their homes. For many, the UK has long been a destination that promised safety, fairness, and the chance of rebuilding life with dignity. But this shift raises questions. Is the UK moving away from that tradition? Critics warn that the decision signals a broader trend, one where deterrence takes priority over protection. and politics outweighs humanitarian duty. Supporters of the pause say it reflects reality. Resources are finite, and systems need breathing space. The clash between these two views is shaping not just policy, but the identity of the UK itself. The bigger question becomes, what kind of country does Britain want to be? Human impact. Behind the statistics are stories of ordinary families enduring extraordinary pain. Imagine a mother granted safety in Britain, but unable to bring her young child left behind in a refugee camp, or a husband separated from his wife for years, with no clear end in sight. These aren't abstract scenarios. They are the daily reality for thousands. Each delayed application is a birthday missed, a milestone lost, and a bond tested by distance and fear. Refugee support groups say the emotional toll is immense, often leading to trauma, depression, and hopelessness. For children, separation from parents can leave lasting scars. When we strip away the politics, this issue comes down to a simple truth. No family chooses to be divided. And yet, under the current suspension, division is exactly what many are being forced to endure. Political and social fallout. This decision is already stirring fierce debate within Parliament, the media, and public opinion. Some see it as a bold move to restore order to a broken system, while others call it a betrayal of Britain's humanitarian obligations. Politically, it reflects a growing shift toward tougher immigration stances, a trend driven partly by pressure from voters. Socially, the fallout may be just as profound. Communities that welcomed refugees now face the challenge of explaining to children why their friends' parents cannot join them. Trust in the asylum process may weaken, while resentment may grow among those left waiting indefinitely. Internationally, the UK's reputation as a leader in refugee protection could suffer. The government insists the suspension is temporary, but for families in limbo, every day feels permanent. The debate now is not only about policy, but about values. What comes next? For now, the future of the family reunion scheme remains uncertain. Officials have not committed to a timeline for reviewing or reinstating the policy. Campaigners are mobilizing, launching petitions, organizing protests, and preparing legal challenges. They argue that the suspension violates both the spirit and the letter of international refugee protections. Meanwhile, families caught in the middle are left waiting and waiting. Each week that passes deepens their uncertainty. Will the scheme reopen in months, or will it quietly fade into permanent closure? Will pressure from the public and advocacy groups force the government's hand? These questions remain unanswered. But one thing is clear. Until clarity is provided, the lives of countless families will remain suspended, their futures dictated not by choice, but by bureaucracy. For them, time is not just ticking, it is aching. Closing reflection. At the heart of this story is a truth too often forgotten. Refugees are not numbers. They are people, parents, children, brothers, and sisters. They are families torn apart by war, now kept apart by policy. The UK's suspension of the family reunion scheme may be defended as practical, but its consequences are deeply personal. Every policy has a human face, and in this case, that face belongs to someone waiting to hold their child, to embrace their spouse, or to sit together at the dinner table again. The question we must all ask is simple. Should the right to be with your family ever be negotiable? And if not, what kind of society are we building when we allow bureaucracy to stand between love and safety? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, because this debate is far from over. Thanks for watching UK Pathway Hub. We hope this video gave you clear insights into UK immigration and visa options. If you found it useful, make sure you like, share, and comment below with your thoughts or questions. We always value your feedback. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our latest updates and comparisons on the UK immigration system. Your pathway to the UK starts here, and we're with you every step of the way.